Sold as a
Join
pet,
me in this
my
dance
naughty
of
foxwoman
elegance
becomes
and
my
allure.
insatiable mate. The auction of forbidden hearts. The underground auction house reeked of desperation and expensive cologne. Dr. Kieran Ashworth adjusted his coat nervously, feeling distinctly out of place among the wealthy elite who gathered in this converted warehouse beneath Neo-Caspian's industrial sector. Holographic displays flickered overhead, advertising exotic acquisitions in multiple languages, while armed guards watched from shadowed corners. Kieran had come seeking information about an ancient artifact rumored to contain data on extinct wolf clans from the Silverfen territories. His research into vanished species had become an obsession, filling the void left by years of isolation in his mountain laboratory. He never expected what happened next. The auctioneer's voice crackled through speakers. Lot 47, a rare specimen from the northern wastes, fully mature, excellent health, striking appearance. The platform rose from below, and Kieran's breath caught. Standing there, bound in delicate chains that seemed designed more for display than restraint, was the most magnificent being he'd ever seen. Her fur was silver white, catching the harsh lights like fresh snow under moonlight. Amber eyes blazed with such fury and intelligence that several bidders shifted uncomfortably. Pointed ears lay flat against her head in defiance, while a thick, luxurious tail lashed behind her with barely contained rage. She was powerfully built yet undeniably feminine, her body showcasing the natural grace of her species. The minimal coverings did little to hide her curves, and Kieran felt his face flush, even as anger rose in his chest. This was wrong. Utterly, completely wrong. 500,000 credits, Kieran heard himself say, his voice cutting through the murmurs. The room fell silent. The wolf-woman's amber gaze found his, and for a moment something passed between them. Surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. Sold, the auctioneer declared with barely concealed delight.
Misunderstood freedom. The transport to Kieran's mountain facility was silent except for the hum of the vehicle's engine. Nisara sat in the back seat, chains still adorning her wrists, watching the city lights give way to dark forests and snow-capped peaks. Kieran kept glancing in the rearview mirror, unsure what to say to someone he'd just purchased like property. When they arrived at his isolated research station, a modern structure built into the mountainside with panoramic windows overlooking the wilderness, he led her inside quickly. The main living area was cluttered with holographic displays showing genetic sequences and ancient texts, comfortable furniture buried under research papers. "I'm going to remove those," Kieran said softly, gesturing to her chains. "And then we'll figure out how to get you home. I have contacts who can help arrange safe passage to the Silverfen territories." He worked carefully at the locks, hyper-aware of her warmth, the silky texture of her fur. When the chains fell away, she rubbed her wrists, then tilted her head, studying him with those penetrating amber eyes. "You speak of sending me away?" Her voice was rich, melodic, with a slight growl underneath. "Already?" Yes, you don't belong here. You should be with your people." Kieran stepped back, trying to maintain professional distance. Nisara's tail swished slowly. "You claimed me before all those others, paid greatly, yet you want nothing?" "I wanted you safe, free." She moved closer, circling him like a predator evaluating prey. "In my culture, when someone fights for you, protects you, claims you from danger, they're declaring intent. You're either very noble or very foolish, Kieran Ashworth." The way she said his name sent shivers down his spine. Over the following days, her behavior confused and captivated him. She explored his home with feline curiosity, but always returned to wherever he was working. She'd drape herself across the couch nearby, watching him with those knowing eyes. At night, he'd wake to find her curled at the foot of his bed, her tail draped over his legs. "You have heating systems," he'd protest. "Your room is comfortable." "Too far," she'd murmur sleepily. "Mates, stay close." "We're not." "Not yet," she'd agree, but her tail would curl more tightly around him. She began wearing his shirts, claiming hers were too restrictive. The sight of her in his oversized clothing, her curves barely concealed, made concentration impossible. She'd lean over his shoulder while he worked, her fur brushing his neck, her breath warm at his ear. "What are you researching?" she'd asked, genuinely interested. "Your people, actually, the old clans. I'm trying to preserve what knowledge remains." Her expression softened. "Then you honor us, even while trying to send me away?" "Nisara, I can't keep you here against your will." She laughed, the sound like silver bells. "Foolish man, do you think these walls could hold me if I wished to leave?" Her tail traced along his jawline. "I stay because I choose to, because you're interesting, because your heart is good, even if you don't understand what you've started." That night she was bolder. She slipped into his bed, pressing against him with shameless warmth. "Your kind are so worried about propriety. Mine are more direct."
The Moonlight Confession. Winter descended on the mountains with breathtaking beauty. Snow piled against the windows while Kieran and Nisara settled into an increasingly domestic rhythm that neither acknowledged directly. She'd taken to helping with his research, her oral knowledge of Silverfen history proving invaluable. He'd catch himself watching her instead of his work, the way her ears twitched when she concentrated, how her tail swayed when she was pleased. The tension between them built like a gathering storm. One evening, Nisara announced she needed to perform a ritual. "It's the full moon of winter, important for my people." She led him to the observatory dome he'd built for stargazing. She'd transformed it somehow. Soft furs covered the floor, moonlight streaming through the transparent ceiling, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and something wilder. Nisara stood in the center and began to move. It wasn't quite dancing. It was something more primal, more sacred. Her body swayed with the grace of wind through trees, her fur seeming to glow in the moonlight. She hummed a melody that tugged at something ancient in Kieran's chest. Her movements were sensual but not crude, an invitation and a challenge. She turned to him, extending one hand. "Join me." "I don't know how." "Then learn. It's time to stop hiding, Kieran. From me, from yourself." He stepped forward on trembling legs. She guided him into the rhythm, her body close against his. Her fur was impossibly soft, her warmth intoxicating. As they moved together, her tail wrapped around his waist, holding him close. "Do you know what this ritual is?" she whispered against his neck. "No. It's how we choose our mates, how we show the moon our commitment." Her amber eyes met his, vulnerable for the first time. "I've been waiting for you to understand, to see that I want to be here, with you." Something broke inside Kieran. All his careful control, his noble intentions to preserve her freedom, his fear of wanting too much. "I love you. God help me. I've fallen completely in love with you." Her smile was radiant. "Finally." She kissed him with fierce joy, and he responded with weeks of pent-up longing. They sank onto the soft furs, hands exploring, discovering. Her fur was silk beneath his fingers, her body warm and yielding against his. She guided him with soft growls of approval, showing him how her people expressed devotion. He traced the patterns of her fur with reverent touches, learning every curve, every sensitive place that made her gasp. She responded with equal fascination, exploring him with curiosity and growing passion. Her tail wrapped around them both, creating an intimate cocoon. "In my culture," she whispered between heated kisses, "we don't hold back, we give everything." "Show me," Kieran pleaded, and she did. Their lovemaking was both tender and wild. She set the pace, sometimes gentle, sometimes demanding, always passionate. He learned her body's language, the sounds she made when pleased, the way her tail tightened when waves of pleasure overwhelmed her. She marked him with gentle nips, claiming him as hers, and he responded with devoted caresses that made her purr with satisfaction. They made love under the moonlight until dawn, learning, adjusting, finding their perfect rhythm. When they finally lay entwined, exhausted and complete, Nisara nuzzled his neck. "You're mine now, completely mine." "And I'm yours," he replied, running his fingers through her soft fur. "Always was," she smiled, her tail curling contentedly around his leg. "You just needed time to catch up."
Marking the bond. The days following their moonlit union blurred into a haze of discovery and desire. Kieran had always been a man of rigid schedules and disciplined routine, but Nisara shattered those patterns with gleeful abandon. She'd pull him away from his research with playful nips and enticing glances, leading him back to their bedroom or surprising him in the observatory with her shameless affection. "Your people spend too much time thinking," she'd tease, straddling his lap while he attempted to work. "Not enough time feeling." He couldn't argue, especially when her tail would trace along his spine in that way that made coherent thought impossible. One morning, Nisara appeared with a wooden box containing small clay pots filled with vibrant pigments, ochre reds, deep blues, earthen browns. "It's time," she announced, her amber eyes serious. "Time for what?" "To mark you properly. In my culture, mates bear symbols that tell our story." She opened the first pot, dipping her fingers in the crimson paste. "These are made from sacred plants of the silverfin. They'll fade eventually, but we'll renew them, again and again, for as long as we both live." Kieran removed his shirt without hesitation. Nisara's touch was gentle as she painted intricate patterns across his chest, spirals representing the journey that brought them together, protective symbols borrowed from her clan's ancient traditions, and at the center, directly over his heart, the mark that designated him as her chosen mate. "Now you," he said when she finished. Her eyes widened with surprise and pleasure. "You want to mark me?" "Of course, this bond goes both ways." She guided his hand, teaching him the symbols, their meanings. He worked slowly, reverently, painting her skin where fur didn't cover, the inside of her arms, across her collarbone, down her spine. Each stroke was a declaration, a promise. When he finished, she turned to face him, and the desire in her eyes was unmistakable. They came together with familiar urgency, their painted bodies pressing close, the pigments smearing between them in abstract patterns that somehow made the moment more sacred. Their lovemaking had evolved. They knew each other's rhythms now, when to be gentle, when she wanted him fierce and demanding, when he needed her tender reassurance. She was insatiable, just as she'd warned, but he matched her passion with devoted intensity. Afterward, lying tangled together, Nisara traced the smeared paint on his chest. "Do you have regrets, taking me from that auction, binding yourself to someone so different?" Kieran kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "My only regret is every moment I wasted trying to resist this, trying to resist you." She purred, the vibration rumbling through both their bodies. "Good answer." That night, she taught him words in her language, intimate phrases, endearments, the sounds her people made during passion. He practiced diligently, delighting in how her ears would perk up when he got the pronunciation right, how her tail would wag when he whispered certain phrases against her fur. They made love with new words and old feelings, their bodies communicating what language sometimes couldn't capture. She was demanding and playful, he was attentive and creative, and together they built a vocabulary of pleasure that was uniquely theirs.